Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got a brand new product update from Palantir. This is a product that they put out about a year ago, but we really didn't hear much about it until yesterday, where they published a 5-minute blog kind of reintroducing this product. And I read through the blog yesterday and I thought it was pretty interesting. This is a product that I knew they had a while ago, but I didn't do too much digging into. I don't think it's like the next AIP or anything like that, but it does highlight Palantir's IL6 accreditation level and why that's so important, why that's so crucial. The article goes into why it's so hard for other companies to get it, and ultimately how Palantir can make some money off of that with helping other SaaS companies be able to do business with the government. So this is their new article introducing Palantir FedStart, helping SaaS companies do business with the government. It's a good read. Let's get through it, and then I'm going to give my analysis on why I think this only adds to the defense moat, which is, a really, really big market opportunity when it comes to Palantir. Okay, here we go. Each year, the US federal government spends around $100 billion on software, representing a massive opportunity for your software company to make an impact. That is if, and you see how they italicized if, you can gain access. Obtaining the requisite federal accreditation for SaaS solutions is time-consuming, labor-intensive, and costly. Those are the obvious problems with trying to be able to do this. Even if your company can afford the $1 million price tag, the opportunity cost of the lengthy accreditation process is enormous, and it hits young, innovative companies such as LLMs and generative AI startups the hardest. Pursuing FedRAMP and impact-level accreditations, explained in detail below, as they'll talk about, can require resource diversion potentially for years away from product innovation, revenue growth, customer support, fundraising, and everything else necessary to scale a company. Palantir's own journey to FedRAMP and IL5 took over 4 years of navigating sponsorships and proof of concepts, and ultimately 60 people from across 25 different teams working full-time for an entire year to achieve. Now they have IL6, which is the highest level of security clearance with the DoD. Only Microsoft or Amazon has that same level of clearance in the entire world. And a lot of people, say that Palantir's been around for 20 years and what have they done? And, it's funny when I hear that argument because to me, I think of that as the moat. I mean, when you've been around for 20 years, it means you've had 2 decades of building relationships, working with the government, building out your product, trying, failing, seeing what works. And as they say in this article, if it took 4 years just to get to IL5, you could imagine for a generative AI company, an LLM company, any SaaS startup that really doesn't have these levels of accreditation but wants to get a piece of that $100 billion pie, it's going to take a long time to do it. A lot of lobbying, a lot of work, and it's not easy. And so Palantir, having done that, I think adds to a level of their moat. Now, they say the 2022 passage of the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program requires FedRAMP authorization for any cloud computing products or services processing unclassified federal information. Similarly, the Department of Defense via Defense Information Systems Agency defined the operating standards known as impact levels for software providers seeking to provide their services in government cloud environments. Today, the onerous requirements to achieve FedRAMP or IL5 include the following: months to years of work to identify or secure an agency sponsor, 18 months on average to build out your technical enclave and controls, write hundreds of pages of documentation, go through an audit with a third party, obviously a lot of stuff, at least $1 million in upfront costs for auditors and compliance, ongoing costs of separate GovCloud infrastructure enclave staffed with U.S. person-only support and engineering teams, and ongoing continuous monitoring and compliance, including monthly scan reports, continuous monitoring, etc., etc. So it seems like it's not easy to be able to sell to the government, and it shouldn't be easy, right? You are going to be, dealing with data in an important way, and you don't want that data going into the wrong hands. So companies that get these deals should be very well audited and accredited, and Palantir has that position. Introducing Palantir FedStart. Palantir FedStart is the proverbial scissors that can cut through all this red tape. FedStart serves as an on-ramp to help deliver your SaaS products to the government at the speed of innovation. Your company's products are run within Palantir's secure and accredited environment. No need for a separate FedRAMP or IL5 accreditation. If you can containerize your software, you can use FedStart in weeks to sell as an accredited solution for quick product delivery and impact. FedStart unlocks FedRAMP Moderate and IL5, the security accreditations required to sell to civilian agencies and the Department of Defense, respectively. FedStart is on track to support FedRAMP High and IL6 within the next year. Now, I want to talk about that for a little bit. They say right here, if you can containerize your software, you can use Palantir's platform that is already IL6 certified and accredited in order to basically use it as a container for your SaaS offering and then sell that to the DoD, or at least FedRAMP, right? On-ramp your ability to be able to get that accreditation process. To me, what this looks like is 2 things. Number one, it kind of looks like a consulting product in terms of working with SaaS companies to be able to sell their products to the DoD and like teaching them how to be able to do it. So I guess there's a consulting element towards it. But I think this is a product that can also have SaaS margins because essentially you're licensing your accredited suite of software to, or your platforms, whatever it may be, to containerize, to be the thing that encompasses a new SaaS company's product. And if there's a good synergy there, then the DoD or the Department of Defense, once that company has finished the sales process, will be able to actually work within that environment because they have Palantir's FedRAMP to allow them to be accredited, or to allow them to get to the point where they're trusted by whatever governmental agency they're working with, because they're building on top of Palantir's platform, which to me means margins similar to, you know, whatever else Palantir sells, 80, 90%, whatever it is, because all they're doing is licensing software at the end of the day for companies to be able to use it. Since 2003, Palantir has been a trusted partner of the U.S. government, supporting critical federal missions with solutions deployed on-prem, in the cloud, and at the edge. Last year, our cloud offering received its IL6 PA, joining the ranks of Microsoft and Amazon Web Services as the only cloud providers with that distinction. In all of these environments, federal accreditation was a serious hurdle we faced. Over the last 20 years, we have developed technology, Apollo and FedStart, that standardizes these deployments and ensures that every control is met by default across all products in every single environment. We are thrilled to now offer this technology for other companies' use in order to bring the best commercial technology to bear in the federal government space. So it makes a lot of sense why they would be leveraging that to other people. Now, here's how they plan to allow this to go to market. We're transforming how companies meet FedRAMP's rigorous accreditation standards by enabling your company to leverage 2 decades worth of Palantir investments, those 20 years that Palantir has been building a company for, in delivering software solutions to the U.S. government. Here's what it looks like. Seamless integration, containerized application integration into the FedStart's Kubernetes infrastructure, which runs on top of AWS or Azure. FedStart manages all 400 controls, including FIPS, validated encryption, logging, authentication, etc. Accreditation as a service. Companies that are part of the FedStart program can benefit from FedRAMP and IL5 compliance managed by Palantir, with Palantir responsible on an ongoing basis for government ATO conversions, compliance artifacts, continuous monitoring, and control assessments. That's where I think there's the consulting service there, right? Because they're like helping you get some type of certification. So they're monitoring you. They're making sure your stuff is secure, all that stuff, just like Palantir had to deal with other providers that were certified when Palantir was not certified. And usage-based pricing. Rather than being charged at a fixed cost, FedStart fees are scaled according to a business usage so that incurred costs are tied to valued gain, which makes sense. And it's really easy because then if you're a company that wants to sell into the government and you don't have a lot of money up front, you can start using Palantir and pay as you go. Now let's get into LLMs and generative AI. So they got to mention AI, right? We got to see what this means for the government. We're particularly excited about the FedStart, what it means for government adoptions of LLMs and generative AI. The hurdles to accreditation impact not only the companies in the commercial sector seeking to do business with the government, but also the government itself and its ability to leverage cutting-edge technology that is available today. LLMs and generative AI bring this problem into sharp relief. The companies most capable of delivering transformational value to the government are also the best equipped to navigate labyrinthine, I've definitely said that wrong, I'm sorry, federal bureaucracy. These companies often operate with lean teams that haven't worked with the government before and don't have millions to spend, but they immediately understand how impactful their tech could be if deployed. From semantic search to operational co-pilots, we are actively partnering with companies in this space to bring such cutting edge technology to the federal government. And look, this makes a lot of sense. I mean, Bank of America upgraded Palantir's price target from 15 to 18 on the basis that they are going to be able to implement AI infrastructure in a way that protects data, is secure, is ethical, respects privacy, all that stuff. So if you're going to implement LLMs and generative AI, the only way those LLMs, large language models, matter is if you securely allow the data that the LLMs are trained on it to be secure, right? And if Palantir helps you do that securitization, then that is a good thing for those types of startups. Defense tech. As the Financial Times recently reported, U.S. venture capitalists have agreed to more than 200 defense and aerospace deals in the first 5 months of 2023, worth nearly $17 billion. If accreditation is a blocker for your company, but you know your products can make an impact with the government customers, contact us here. And it's funny they mentioned this. Now I get why Sham tweeted it. I didn't even realize that. So if we go to Sham Sanker, he's right here. We see that he tweeted this as well. VCs have invested $17 billion in 200 defense tech companies in 2023. Those startups can't spend 18 to 24 months and millions to get onto government networks, IL5, IL6, and beyond, nor can generative AI companies get a huge start with FedStart. So if VCs have invested $17 billion in 200 defense tech companies in 2023, a lot of what those VCs are expecting ultimately is a return. And they're expecting, outside of the 50 to 100x that a VC expects of venture capitalists, they're expecting defense tech to be valuable over the next 10 years. It's if you're looking for trends on where the market is going or just overall where things are at in regards to technology, it's really important to look at what VCs are doing. Back in 2021, venture capitalists were investing in Web3 products. And I felt like I was an island and I just personally didn't get a lot of the Web3 hype. I didn't get the NFT stuff. I didn't get all that stuff. So to me, I thought these were wasted investments. And that's where you have to kind of challenge your thesis. But nonetheless, VCs put in billions of dollars, tens of billions into these companies that were operating through crypto tokens and all this type of stuff. So that's where the market was going, and then the market flipped. And we've seen VC investments in Web3 companies dramatically decrease. I mean, in 2021, every other week, there was a new pre-seed, seed round of financing, Series A round of financing of $12, $13, $14 million to these Web3 companies that made no sense, at least in my opinion. Things have changed, right? The market crashed, crypto crashed, all that stuff. 2023, ChatGPT saved the market. NASDAQ was down 35% peak to trough. ChatGPT becomes mainstream. The market starts recognizing AI is going to be a thing. We get report after report after report saying 1.3 trillion, 2.7 trillion, 4.4 trillion in terms of the overall market opportunity for generative AI by 2033. So CAGRing at almost 40% every single year, or CAGRing at about 40 billion every single year. And so when that's happening, you're looking at this market like, this is important. What are the use cases and applications of generative AI and LLMs? And that's what everyone's trying to figure out. Well, VCs are a good indicator because if they think that this is the next thing, and this seems much more real to me than crypto because we can see the implications of it, then as a result of that, they're going to invest. And they're going to put a lot of money because, 17 billion in the grand scheme of things is not a lot, because if you're talking about $4 trillion worth of value in 2033, that's 17 billion. If it even turns into a couple hundred billion, those VCs have done a good job. And so if they're betting on defense tech over the next 10 years to the tune of $17 billion, defense tech only matters. Like, it literally only matters if you can sell to the government, right? Because if you're building technology products to be able to sell to governments, that means the DoD, the Department of Justice, Army, military, all these places that would buy some of your software, would buy some of whatever you're selling, would buy your guns, your military, your helicopters, whatever you're trying to build. They need to feel that your stuff is good. They need to also feel that they can trust your stuff. So if they're buying a gun from you, they need to trust that the gun actually works. If they're buying software from you to manage all the stuff they're doing, they need to know that that software makes sense. And Palantir has IL6 accreditation. So I think the point for why they introduced this particular product, or kind of reintroduced it, because this product has always been around, is because if VCs are investing $17 billion in defense tech, and defense tech companies need to be able to get some level of accreditation to be able to sell to that customer. Like, you can't sell to that customer unless you have the auditing, the accreditation, the security requirements, all the stuff that we mentioned in that article. Then this does seem like a market opportunity Palantir can go after, because they are one of the most secure companies, one of the best companies that has the best ties with the DoD in regards to the relationships they built over the past 20 years. They have a federal advisory board, so they literally have retired generals of the Army and Air Force on the board of that federal advisory that Palantir has created about a year ago, that are helping consult them and obviously lobby to be able to get different deals. And then on top of that, they actually have the accreditation that allows you to use their software to containerize, in their words, to then be able to sell your stuff to the government, because you need that accreditation in order to actually sell this stuff in the first place. And so when you put all the pieces together, it looks like this is a really interesting product in an emerging market, especially in the context of LLMs and AI, where any of those companies that want to have any impact in the government get a little piece of that $100 billion pie. You need to have the security and accreditation levels. And the only way you get that is if you have something like a Palantir, just like Palantir had in the past when they didn't have these levels, with a company that's monitoring them, helping you through the process, get you through all the security clearances you need to be able to even get to the point where you can talk to the decision makers in the first place. And it seems like if Palantir could just offer that as a consulting product with the licensing of their software, pay-as-you-go type of fee, that's a product that could do some numbers. And it adds, when I was reading this last night and I was thinking about it, to me, it adds more broadly to the moat, because if we abstract away from it, let's just forget about whatever revenue they can get from this. What's exciting to me is that Palantir spent 20 years building their business. And in those 20 years, they've built a lot of relationships, and they've built the capacity to be able to get to this point where they can say, we are one of 3 companies that has IL6 certification. And so when I was debating, the guy from the Bear Cave, and I was like, what about IL6? He's like, that doesn't matter. I'm like, well, that really does matter, because Booz Allen Hamilton, which was his argument for another governmental contract that gets, software contracts, they can't do what Palantir is doing. Booz Allen Hamilton can't take a new startup that wants to sell to the DoD and actually give them the software and the consulting necessary to be able to get to that point. It's just not happening. It's going to happen with a company that actually knows what they're doing in regards to the government space, and that comes with Palantir. And so, again, the defense market can be very, very big for Palantir, especially with what's going on in Ukraine. It can be very, very big for increased defense spend, especially in Europe, which is what Lewis Mosley, the head of Palantir UK, said yesterday. And then it can be very, very big because they have the accreditation requirements, because they spent 10 years actually building up to this point from a technology perspective and a relationships perspective, to actually offer their services to other companies that are trying to do that. And that's like pure margins, pure profits, right? Like there's no forward deployed engineers you need to be able to do that. That's just some people helping you figure out the process and then licensing the software so you can build on top of their stuff. I don't know how big of a market this can become, but again, it adds to the layers and complexity of what the moat is for this type of company, given they've spent 20 years being able to build this stuff up, and given that they have the potential to license this software to companies that are trying to get a piece of that $100 billion pie of software, which is only growing. And if Karp is right that it gets to 2, 3, 4, 5% of US defense budgets, there's going to be a software prime, a prime contractor for software for the government. And I think that's inevitably going to be Palantir. Okay, those are my thoughts on Palantir's FedStart program. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I'll see you in the next one.